This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Three rounds and three different winners this season. And weirdly, all three winners have only shown up in that lone round where they took victory. This has left consistency a key factor for our championship contenders. It may be early stages, but our hopefuls have already been racking up the points. We'll see if any of them falter along the bumps of Sebring as we get ready to watch round 4 of the Weekend Warriors, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Adam Young. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Adam, this car already tends to bounce all over the curbs, and adding the bumps of Sebring sounds like a nightmare in the cockpit.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those places that will try to shake the fillings out of your teeth, especially in a car like the SRF. It's going to be tight. Drafting will play a role at times here today. And Ed, I mean, it's just going to be a tough race with the Spec Racer Fords at a place like Sebring, an old World War II airfield. The concrete sections, the old actual runway portions and taxiway portions actually feel like it was made in World War II. We're running the international layout here for today. 17 turns, 3.7 miles, 5.955 kilometers. Let's go ahead and take a lap around Sebring in the GSRC Spec Racer Ford.
All right, we've got Amjad Yaman in the GSRC SRF, so let's do a lap around Sebring. Coming down to turn 1, it's a long stretch, so it might be a passing opportunity, but turn 1 is actually pretty fast in these little cars. So when you add the bumps and the blind apex into the mix, it makes overtakes a little sketchy. Hopefully, you kept it out of the dirt, but you should still hold to the right and try to line the car up for 3. This is another spot where you could potentially execute a pass, but it's a late apex and the car does not like that inside curb, so be careful. From there, you dive straight into 4 and 5, where you've got another very late apex. This time, though, it's extremely important not to come in shallow, because the track now winds around Big Bend, where you'll be flat to the floor all the way to the hairpin. The draft is likely to bring drivers into play, and even if you took that out of the equation, the braking into 7 here at the end offers a perfect chance to try to outbrake your opponent. Try to take away their inside line and then throw out the anchor to beat them to the apex. The main part is to be careful around the exit where the track has a little kink in it, making it easy to accidentally go off into the grass. Make sure to keep your tires clean and avoid cutting the circuit. From there, the course weaves gently to the right at 8 and back left at Fangio. If you've got a run on your opponent, it can sometimes make picking a side awkward. Plus, the lead up to Cunningham is a popular spot to send one up the inside, but yet again, those tall inside curves are waiting for anyone to get greedy and bounce the car all over the place. From here, the track gets a little thin though through Collier, and it's tough to go side by side because of the way the racing line takes you across the circuit. Coming up, it's a tough curved braking zone down into Tower where it's not uncommon for drivers to put 2 wheels off and pitch it into the barrier. Besides, the exit here is what you should really be trying to maximize instead of the entry because it's another turn that leads into a fast, flat-out section for the SRF. You've got a double apex left-hander with Bishop where it's all about minimizing inputs. Then, once again, try to straighten her out for 15. There's plenty of paved runoff around these turns, but you really don't want to go off in case it gives you a cut course penalty. And as you enter Le Mans, you'll see why it's a nightmare to get a slowdown at this portion of the circuit. We've now hit the long Ullman straight, and anybody not piling down this stretch on a full head of steam is going to be driven past with ease. Plus, this is another spot where the draft will already be creating side-by-side situations, and someone will want to back out by the time they hit sunset. It's got this kink at the entry, then you're trying desperately to slow her down and turn at the same time. On top of that, the bumps are going to be jostling the car every which way, which ups the difficulty immensely. Get yourself a good exit off the turn because we've now come back to the pit straight. And if you kept it all together, you finished a lap around Sebring.
That onboard should really give you an idea of the bumps around here that we keep talking about. They will be a talking point throughout the race. But one talking point we need to get to is our sponsor, because the Weekend Warriors is brought to you by Sim Stickers. Whether it's button boxes, steering wheels, or keyboards, they have you covered. You can find out more at simstickers.co.uk. Big thanks to them for coming back for another season of sponsorship here for the Weekend Warriors. And that championship that they have been aboard is certainly an interesting one this season. Elson leads, even though he's only got a couple podiums for him, and he is ahead of Daniel Sadro, who has been chasing that championship for multiple seasons now. This looks like his best opportunity with David Gaspers not being a regular attender this time round. We'll see if he can actually manage that. Elson's going to try and deny him that. You see Regalado, McAreevy, and Doherty rounding out your top 5, which naturally brings us to the Spec 2 race here. Adam?
Yeah, and of course, if you're new to the Weekend Warriors SRF series, you'll see the cars with 200s in their car numbers, and well, those will be your S2 drivers as we go through the day, and it's a tight one. Only 18 points separating first through fifth. Ed Doherty only has that 1 point lead over Gabe Neal, who in turn only has a very slight advantage over Nico Shook, Tom Gradwell, and Gary Woolbolts. So it's going to be a tight one out there, I think, for the S2 standings. But Joe, you hit the nail on the head. Consistency is going to be a big role, and not only the main drivers championship, but the S2 as well.
Which certainly looks like that is given us some intrigue over there this season. Now, of course, this race itself that we're watching today, we already said that it is round 4, and they have 3 drop weeks that they can take into account. So if someone has not attended these first 3 weeks, they still can get in this championship, but they are under the gun, of course. They have open setups on these cars, but they have limited the fuel compared to what the real SRS can use, which means that this 40-minute race will include a scheduled stop for fuel. They ration the points, which is interesting. The podium stays the same, but last place will always get 25 points no matter how many show up. And with a big field today, that means it's smaller margins from spot to spot. The incident penalties are for each 10 incidents out on track. There's a lot of places where you can go a little bit wide in this car and rack those up. So they do want to try and keep it clean. And they have a spare car waiting in the pits if they get too much damage. And that will certainly come in handy with the walls being close in a few places as well. This race, as always, is brought to you on the iRacing Esports Network. Make sure and subscribe. If you haven't yet, you'll know it because the subscribe button will be big and red. Click that. You won't miss a moment on IESN. Currently, We have qualifying going underway, and interestingly, it's Ian Haycox who is our provisional pole sitter. I have not seen Sadro been able to topple him, but you talked about the draft playing a part in these races. I almost wonder if we'll see it a little bit mixed up, Adam, simply because some drivers will manage a little bit of a sneaky pull along the front straight.
Yeah, and there's a handful of places that is tight in as many sharp corners that Sebring has. I mean, you're going to have about 3 good drafting zones there in this car, and so this is one of those places where you'd like to have somebody, kind of close on pace to you, out in front of you, to be able to use them, be able to use that pull to try to get ahead in qualifying. Because once this race starts, passing is going to be difficult. So starting position definitely is going to matter here.
And our viewers may notice that Ian's pole is still 2.5 minutes to complete a single lap around here. It is a long time around this circuit in the underpowered SRF. We're watching Sadler to see if he can get faster than that 2:29.3. So the drivers do not have many opportunities to try and better their time here in qualifying. They only get 20 minutes, and it is an open qualifying, so you have to avoid other cars out on track being slower than you, as well as trying to get a pull from those who you can get the slipstream from. This is Jeff Jacobson, yet to take his first time. Let's see if this one's going to count, because he's had 2 in which they were discounted with an off or some sort of issue. As he comes across, another one that is blank for the number 40. That's not boding well, because he might have to start from the back of the grid. He doesn't hustle in these last 5 minutes. Ian Wilson, and his first time is good enough for 24th across there. Now, we are missing some names out here today, Adam. Interestingly, we have the SCCA runoffs in real life over at VIR. Last week's winner, Max Grau, has ducked off so that he can race over there. Also, Zach Rivard and Sandy Satulo are each racing in their respective classes. We've got a few different cars that they're running over there. So we certainly miss them and wish them well, but just goes to show that the real life connection to racing, to this, to iRacing and sim racing in general, continues to get deeper and deeper.
It does, and especially a car like this, which is very much a hobby type machine in real life. They race all over the country, these spec racer Fords. I mean, having a race even, down at the Circuit of the Americas here the other week. So you'll find these guys in real life, some of them as well as in here. And unfortunately, sometimes, though, I mean, if you're going to have a choice to go drive real life or go drive an iRacing, yeah, I'm going to go drive real life, which is, of course, where Max is at. Wishing him the best of luck. But the off season's coming up for those guys. We'll be able to see them a lot more consistently here as they continue to work on their craft during the off season.
We just watched Stevie Ray come across, did not improve on his time. In the meantime, Daniel Sadro just came out behind him. He set his quickest lap, which is good enough for the front row. What about Elson, our points leader? As he comes across, it looks like he does not improve, so he will stay in 12th, which is way mired down in the mid-pack for the number 56.
Yeah, not exactly where you want to be at all, because it's kind of the danger zone as far as things happening in the first couple of corners here. So if you end up in that 12th spot, that's going to be a tough one to overcome.
Oh, and the pole goes to Jerry McAreevy just as we were riding on board. 2/100ths quicker than Ian Haycox. He has got something underneath him this week. Sometimes he can't always make it here for practice due to the fact that his work sometimes gets in the way. In fact, he didn't set any laps in practice I'm seeing, and yet Jerry McAreevy has found some speed here today. We're watching Aguilar now, who puts himself in 15th with his first time lap.
Some of the guys like to give McAreevy a hard time. Story there is, as I understand it, is that he's either working or he's doing something else on Sundays, and he's always the timing just works out that he's always getting here during qualifying. So it's just kind of one of those luck things that just kind of befalls him. But he always shows up. He always runs good, consistent laps once the race gets going.
See Tom Vanderpool and his most recent lap, unfortunately not counting. There's a pretty wide spread over our 29 cars that have put laps in, about 4 seconds between them. We do have a new name or two out here. I see Billy Bob Wright has joined us. Usually we see him over in the Lotus 49, a much faster car, but definitely a wheelman's car. And the number 49 has put himself into 10th place, so certainly not translating the skills from that older machinery to this newer machinery. Too bad.
Well, at least not yet. Give him a little bit of time. He'll be all right. But it is a different machine. But at the same time, I mean, still a low downforce car that you do have to work around. So he'll figure it out quick, I think.
And Gaspers, who has joined us a little bit late here as well, spins out. And is he not going to get a time then? No, he won't. Ooh. So we're going to see some fun here today. We've watched Gaspers go from dead last to first before. So I almost wonder if he's going to try and attempt that again. It'll be a lot harder to do here than otherwise, where he did it at Suzuka before. Jerry McAreevy, who still holds that provisional pole, is going to get to start one more lap and improve his time as he comes out of Sunset.
See what he's able to do here. 27, 28.
Nope, that one didn't count. Looks like he had an off somewhere along the way. Ian Haycox is just crossing as well, and a 2:32 does not improve for him. Gasper's time did not get that one counted, obviously, because of the spin, but he is going to get one more shot to try and do this. Ooh, and Chris Murakami goes up to third. Interesting. Murakami is not usually one of our front runners, but I noticed he was well up there in practice, and qualifying is backing up his performance. The 01 sitting very well. For those who are following our Spec 2 championship, Aguilar is our pole sitter over there in Spec 2. The way to tell them apart is any drivers who have numbers 200 and above on their car as a Spec 2 racer. Checkered flag comes out. Let's see who's going to cross the line first. Actually, Miroslav Juracek, one of our winners so far this season. Could he be our first repeat? He's going to have to work hard to do it because right now he has no qualifying time. Is this one going to be clean? It is a 2:30.1, and that jumps him up to 8th. Still a little bit out of place for what we're used to seeing from Juracek.
I'm interested to see what Daniel Sadro is able to do here. His qualifying time that he put down is 6/10 slower than what his time was in practice. So now he's on a flying lap here. See if he's able to improve his spot up from 4th.
He might be getting an ever so slight tow from Adam Bradshaw, who's a little bit ahead of him on the straightaway, but it'll be minimal. He swings it through bumpy Sunset Bend and onto the front stretch. He sits in 4th, and he's abandoning the lap. He's not happy with it.
Just going to call it a session and move on to the race here, which 4th is not going to be a terrible spot for him to start either.
David Gasper's coming around, still without a time on the board, getting a little bit of a tow from Murakami as well. Haven't been watching, so we're not sure if this one has been clean thus far for the 23. The multi-time champion is used to being under the gun and under pressure. Granted, this season he is just out here racing for a little bit of fun, and he'll certainly have fun passing people if he does start from the back. But David now comes to the line with the checkered flag waving for him, and it counts. It's a 2:32 flat, which is only good enough for 25th. That is still very, very slow. See Dominique Bureau going to finish his lap, and the last car going to be across the line. And it looks like the 2:08 does not improve this time. That is everybody. But before we go to the grid, another quick thank you to our sponsor for this season, the Sim Stickers, which help make stickers for your button boxes, steering wheel, or keyboards. Make sure that you check them out at simstickers.co.uk. If you've got a pretty serious setup, or even if you don't have a serious setup, you could probably use their help in making sure and identify your buttons. But the grid today, relatively full. We could give you a little bit of a rundown here of what is in store for them with a full pace lap that will have to be running around. But really the surprise today is Jerry McAreevy getting up on the pole with a nice time of 2:29.316, only 2/100ths faster than the driver next to him on the front row. And that is going to be Ian Haycox. Another bit of a surprise there with the front row being drivers that we're not used to seeing up there as much. Of course, they are followed by Chris Murakami, who will be starting in P3 here today in round 4 of this series. Daniel Sadro, of course, will be starting next to him in 4th position. And David Gregorio will be P5. David also having a nice little run there for him. Let's not forget about Joe Aguilar, the pole sitter for our Spec 2 race. We mentioned no one was able to get past him there in the last lap of our qualifying 6th overall. Joe is looking very handy, especially since he has nobody within the next row or two in his class starting near him. Michael Shaw will be in 7th position. And one of our winners so far this season, Miroslav Juracek, we talked about how he is looking to be the first to repeat here in round 4 for a win. I'm not sure if he'll be able to do it, but he is sitting in a decent position within the top 10 to try and take that. Brett Holton will be starting in 9th, and then rounding out the top 10 here, Adam, is going to be Brian D. Short.
Yeah, and coming in 11th is Hugh Haycox. 12th position, that's going to go to Billy Bob Wright. 13th, Stevie Ray, who helps put all this together here for Weekend Warriors. Stephen Elson in 14th position. Zachary LeVay in 15th in row 8. Alongside him will be Dominique Moreau. Ryan Walker, Bob Kern will make up row 9. Adam Bradshaw and Ramon Regalado will be in row 10.
When we get to 21st position, it's Whitney Strickland, and he is followed by Tom Gradwell, who is in 22nd. The next row on the inside has Ed Doherty. He's had a mixed bag in terms of results as of the last couple seasons. He's still mired down in Spec 2 based on his iRating, but he tends to be competing for podiums in that Spec 2 race. Jeff Jacobson starts 24th, and David Gaspers, without practice and with a single qualifying lap, is all the way back in 25th position, but we've seen him win from farther back before, so do not count him out. Paulo Bream will be starting in 26th. He'll be followed by Bill Daly in the 27th spot. Then you've got Gary Wobold. We had a chance to talk to him before the race, and he noted Sunset Bend is one of the big danger zones in these cars. It can get awfully bumpy and the car can be easily unsettled. He'll start 28th. Mark Gehan will be 29th, and then the top 30 will be rounded out by Ian Wilson. Only 31 of our drivers got times in. Tom Vanderpoel was the last of those who got one in at 31st, and Emil Orza will be last on the field without a time set of our 32-car field. Speaking of the cars out here today, we talked about the drivers racing in real life, and often, Adam, it may be easy to forget that it's more than just the Spec Racer or your regular MX-5 that the SCCA hosts. I'm looking at the cars that our drivers are running. Grau is running 2 of them, actually, the SRF F3 and the Formula Enterprises. It's basically FE2 is what they call it. And then you've got the F1600. I've gotten to watch those race in real life before. They're a lot of fun. And the SRF 3 FE for Sandy Satullo. Zach Rivard racing that F1600. So anybody who does want to get involved in the SCCA and these cars has options if they want to get out there and racing in real life.
Yeah, they do. And all those guys will tell you just how great of a training tool iRacing is for their endeavors there. And I mean, the beauty about iRacing, of course, you come out here and you don't have to tear apart real world equipment if something doesn't work for you. So they love coming out here. They love being able to compete in both real life and the virtual environment. So it's good to have those guys out here when they can be. But today, just the virtual guys.
You can see it's been a little bit cloudy. We've gotten the sun peeking out here and there, but because of the cloud cover, track temperature not too bad at 98 degrees Fahrenheit. We're in the middle of the afternoon here in Florida at 3 p.m. virtual standard time. They do have a little bit of a wind, and that should only really affect them on the straightaways, the corners. This car not too susceptible with that low of winds, at least around them. You can see the large field that we have here today as they work their way out of Tower down towards Jean Debienne. Some of these quick left-hand kinks in Bishop. And then one of the most important straights on the track is coming up here, Adam, onto the Ullman Straight out of Le Mans. We've seen that make or break a number of races.
Yeah, and it's one of about 3 good drafting areas that you're going to have on this track, and you've got to set yourself up right for a good run into and through Sunset, because that immediately leads into the second good, another good drafting area, with that being the front straightaway. But Sunset is such a crucial corner to begin with, and it all starts in the Ullman Straight because you're carrying so much speed into there, and then those bumps in Sunset are enough to throw your car loose, and in all types of cars, SRF included, it can be treacherous.
Porsche pace car carrying them along at a nice slow clip, so it doesn't have to worry about being unsettled here through the bumps. Instead, that Porsche driver is going to duck into the pit lane and give control to McAreevy. Green flag is out here for round 4. It's a good jump for Jerry. Ian Haycox immediately goes to cover off Chris Murakami, who's got a great run up his inside coming down to turn 1. Don't forget about championship hopeful Daniel Sadro. He starts to back out of it as he sees the competition going on for second in front of him. That allows David Gregorio up his inside as we get a little bit of 3 wide coming through turn 1. But otherwise, it looks relatively safe and clean.
Yeah, for the most part, still have a few guys. Oh, actually, I see a little bit of contact back there. I want to say that was for 5th or 6th at the time, trying to see who's spinning. It is Michael Shaw getting bumped out of 7th position there. So that's the first real incident that I've seen here today. Everybody's made it through the first couple of corners with the exception of him, scot-free.
Yeah, that sent him all the way down to 23rd. Bad news for him. Gasper's already up to 21st here at the start, as now they hit the hairpin for the first time. Haycox not quite on the back of McAreevy, dropping a bit, so no chance for a pass through. There is Gaspers using up all the track and then some through the hairpin.
Yeah, and he had a lot of action going on just behind him too, with a few bumps and everything else. So it's good that he was ahead of that and able to get clear of that. But he's still got some action in front of him with Bob Kern already kind of bent up a little bit in the rear end. He's going to be able to get by him cleanly and set his targets now on Zachary LeVay.
Just about halfway through the first lap, you could see our group of leaders are all pretty single file. Most of the drivers have gotten that way. You don't really have much of a battle until you get far, far back in the field. They come up to Jean Debienne now. Let's see how powerful this draft is in race trim. Coming up to Le Mans, our leader tries to get back on the throttle as soon as possible. McAreevy.
McAreevy's around in the tires.
That's Ian Haycox.
Not McAreevy. Haycox.
Yeah. And he's stuck there. Oh, and he's being joined. I'm not sure who that was. I think that's Billy Bob Wright. Both of them get it going, but both made hard contact with the wall.
Yeah, Haycox definitely got the worst of that. He has been up in all 4 corners of that machine.
It was the inside curb. He was way far inside there, and then there's Billy Bob, and it's the exact same thing.
It's almost like he hit that set of bumps in the middle line, and it set him into the inside curb at kind of a weird angle, and that's what I think just finished the job, and the car's all tore up.
Onboard Shaw, looks like he did get a shot from the back. I think you said something about that earlier, didn't you? That he had some help.
It looked like there was some contact there. Yes.
Oh, there it is. Trying to figure out who the white and black car is. Number 12. That's Brett Holton.
So one thing to mention, though, here, I don't think we did there in the pre-race, these guys do get 1 fast repair. Now, some of these guys that do have some damage, you're going slow enough, it's not going to really wreck your day or anything like that just yet. A lot of these guys will try to ride through the damage going to their pit stop, so they don't have to come down pit road twice, or at least wait until the pit window opens.
We saw Sadro manage to get by Murakami. That's for second place, and he sets his sights on McAreevy ahead of him. Gregorio and Aguilar are still close behind. Aguilar, our Spec 2 leader down in that class. We got some action behind them, though. Dominic Bureau and a little bit of a fight with both Gaspers and Holton. In fact, I think Holton and Gaspers still side by side and almost 3 wide there for a moment. Gasper's going to manage to sneak through. That gets him up to 9th place. We're only on lap 2, and he's cracked the top 10.
This is insane. Not only cracking the top 10, I mean, he's trying to dive into the top 10 here. Hugh Haycox, that last time around, was 8th. Granted, some things have shuffled, some 3 wide battles there and everything else, but Gaspers keeps up like this. I mean, he's going to be going for the top 5 here before too long, back in that lead pack.
He's been given a fight, as that's Hugh Haycox to his side, coming onto the Ullman straight, but a little bit better speed off the corner for Gaspers. He knows that as soon as he's clear, he goes to cover him off. He's given a bump draft by Haycox. Holton to his outside now, thinking maybe he could get by both of them if they hold each other up. But everybody breaks into Sunset Bend, and Hugh Haycox is deep into there, much deeper than Gaspers, managing to get to the inside, but he can't get to the throttle as soon as Gaspers, so the DH driver is going to retain that 8th place.
See how much of a difference they're kind of taking that different line. Now they're really fighting. Haycox almost trying to squeeze Holton.
And we had a wreck on screen there. That's Bradshaw, and that happened in front of him. I think that was Ryan Walker getting into it with Doherty. In fact, he initially didn't hit Doherty. He hit the back of Bob Kern. That's the 206 you see there, the red and white car.
Yeah, it looked like Kern was already sliding. Back end had broken loose through Sunset, and just nowhere for those guys to go.
Everybody tries to scatter, but not everyone gets through clean, unfortunately. As we come back to the front, Aguilar has managed to overtake Murakami. That puts our Spec 2 driver up to 4th overall, but look at McAreevy and Sadro. Sadro has run him down from, gosh, this was probably about a 1.5 seconds back. So he has clearly got something underneath him.
And I figured he did with the times I saw him practice. He probably is able to manage that traffic real well. So if he's able to get around McAreevy here, what I'm going to be interested in seeing is how well he does in clean air. Back half of the top 5 fight here now on your screen still remains close, though. But the more these guys fight, that's exactly what I think Jiracek and Elson and Gaspers wants to see. Kind of surprised at Gaspers here all of a sudden, Joe. It looks like maybe his run is kind of stalled out for a little bit. Maybe he's just reloading, getting his nerves back together. But he's kind of stopped his advance here for the moment.
He had a bit of a gap up to Elson, who's behind right now. And actually, he's gaining on very quickly. So here comes that advance once more. They'll get a good slipstream down the Ullman Straight. On screen, you may have saw that Aguilar has gotten to the overall podium. He managed to pass Gregorio for that one, so he is on a tear. But this man also currently tearing through the field, and he's going to notch one more. There goes Gaspers now into 7th. Some of those drivers who did get damaged might have a chance to stop into the pits soon. We're just about to the pit window. There goes our leader, pulled away from Sadro at a crucial moment, as these are some of the draft portions of the track down the front stretch and through turn 1. Sadro is going to have to reset himself up. They do have Aguilar behind it. It's about 2.5 seconds to the car in P3. Coming up to one of the more popular places for passes. The run down to the hairpin here, Adam. Heavy braking into this corner. And Sadro, he's a little far back, but he is going to pull closer, I think, here.
Yeah, he's trying to. And this could also be just kind of hanging back there for a little while, too. Maybe just trying not to do anything. Draft does play a little bit of a role. Maybe just trying to save a little bit of fuel, take a slightly shorter stop. Could be any of a number of reasons. It just doesn't seem like he's putting that much pressure on him.
And Aguilar is going to lose that 3rd place to Gregorio, who gets by. In fact, I almost wonder if Joe had a slowdown penalty there. That or he had a bad exit out of the hairpin. So that hands it back to the 27. Murakami still on their tail. Also, don't count out Juracek. Started in 8th place. He's gotten up to 6, and he is spying those cars ahead. Usually has pretty good pace, so he could possibly fight for this podium. However, he now has David Gaspers within about a second and a half behind him, and he knows how fast Gaspers is. So the question is, how hard will he fight once he's caught?
Do want to point out Gaspers last time around was the fastest car on the racetrack, and not by a little bit. He was the fastest car by 0.6 of a second. So that's a big margin there, and there's plenty of time for him to get back up.
Oh, and Gregorio goes off. So while he was in that fight for 3rd, he suddenly finds himself now having to go on the defensive because Juracek is coming up on him. He goes to the inside. Sorry, we're on replay here. You can see the mistake. Oh, a bobble mid-corner. Had a change for the lead on that same straightaway. Look at this. On replay still, Sadro got himself the run that he'd been wanting. There's your answer on whether or not he's looking to save fuel. He wants to be up at the front.
Yeah, and I have to wonder if he's got somebody in his ear telling him how fast Gaspers is behind him and that he can't waste any time. He said 29.262 that last time by. Gaspers was a 29.280, so he was only 200ths of a second faster that last time by than David Gaspers.
And he overtook 2 more cars in the process. He got by Gregorio. Excuse me, 1 more car. He only got by Gregorio in that process. Now he's still behind Juracek. So it's 2 positions lost, actually, for David. At least David Gregorio. David Gaspers up 1. The 23 sizing up the 84 as they come up to the hairpin. Not close enough at this point. Oh, but he's wide at the apex. And Juracek just lets him through.
Gotta wonder if that was maybe just a go on by, I know you're that much faster, no use in slowing either one of us up, or if he maybe just blew the breaking point just a little bit.
That's a good question because Juracek hasn't been catching the top 5 all that quickly. Maybe he's thinking if I grab onto the slipstream of Gaspers, he can tow me up there and I can have a better chance of challenging. Right now, he's been hugged right to the gearbox of that number 23 as they both pull along Gregorio as well. And here's the incredible thing about this climb. We're on lap 5 right now, and he's in 5th place. Gaspers started in 25th. He's done an average of 4 positions per lap. Just incredible.
And I mean, he's still got a ways to go. It's not going to be a give me any means. As Jerry McAreevy now right back up underneath Daniel Sadro, not going to do anything with it here. In fact, maybe gave him a little bit of a push going into sunset. I really think those two are starting to work together here, knowing that if they don't, Gaspers is going to be up there in no time. But if they can just take advantage of who's fastest win, it's going to prolong that and maybe just buy them enough time.
The gap from Gaspers to the leader is 7.5 seconds. We've got early takers for the pits. This is a little unusual from Juracek. Then usually we see Stevie Ray as the first.
Yeah, I'm going to be watching this. David Gaspers, that last time by, you see it there on your screen, a 28.88. So your leaders the last time, 29.45 and 29.25. So 0.4 to 0.6 faster than what they're running right now.
And this is why we were saying you can't count him out when we started this race, even though he was down in 25th on the grid. You can see he's now up to the back of Murakami. What took Juracek, well, what Juracek couldn't do, if anything, did not take Gaspers all that long. Wow, and he closes heavily under braking, almost touches the rear of Murakami. Could have the pass done coming up to Cunningham. Love with these onboards and how much it shows you these cars bounding around over the bumps. No defense from Chris Murakami. Lets him through into Cunningham. And easy pickings for Gaspers to now reach 4th position.
I mean, I got to start wondering, is this just fun for David Gaspers? I mean, I feel like we've done this rodeo before with him coming back up with me on the broadcast, not just watching it. And it's like, I really think that sometimes this is something he finds fun, to try to charge to the field, see how far back he can start and still get up there.
You know, from our interviews with him, I'm willing to bet that's true, because he tends to sort of downplay things and say that he just likes to go out here and enjoy the races. But look at this up at the front as we watch McAreevy duck back into the draft of Sadro. Is he going to stay put? He's not gaining on him a whole lot, so McAreevy maybe just getting a little lift and saving fuel as Zach LeVay is off in Jean Debienne. Did he have help on this one? I think it was a solo car. It was all on his own. The 13 climbs over the curbs, and at that point, very hard to keep control of the car and has to turn it completely around to get going again. Ooh, Elson pits. This is a driver we're used to seeing in early, the number 56, trundling down to his spot. Now, he was relatively close to Juracek, who came out in 21st position. Stevie Ray also follows them in. Ray traditionally has been the earliest pitter, but lately a few other drivers seem to have found their way in earlier than him. There's Juracek coming out of the final corner, across the start-finish line. Elson just getting going now, but he is going to be beat easily by Juracek. See Adam Bradshaw pitting. He had some problems with some contact, so I suspect he's coming in to take his spare car. Just at about the halfway point for this race. There is your leader, Daniel Sadro, in the 51. McAreevy ahead of him. And even if Sadro doesn't win this race, by the way, Adam, we have to remember championship points. Elson has been stuck down in the lower half of the top 10, and Sadro's been, looking at a pretty good podium, a good chance of a podium here today. How hard does he fight to try and keep this victory?
Right now, I mean, win's win. Win can play huge dividends, especially in a series where you got 3 drops. It's take everything you can get when you can get it at this point already. And if I'm Sadro, I'm fighting for that win. You try to put down as fast laps as you can. If you have somebody in your ear telling you where Gaspers is and where McAreevy is, be paying attention to that. You're going to have to drive hard every single lap right now, because if I'm doing my math right, of course this is completely independent of how pit stops pan out, but Gaspers is going to catch these guys with maybe 2-3 to go, if not sooner.
Just 6.5 seconds back from Sadro now, and this was in clear air. This was without the draft that he's been pulling before on a few of these laps. So let's see what Gaspers got underneath him. Comes to the line. His fastest is a 28.8. This one also a 28.8. In fact, just under a tenth within his quickest time, and that was without help around the track. Meanwhile, we've got Gregorio coming to pit and Hugh Haycox also in the lane. Down in the mid-pack, we got a nice little battle. We haven't been able to watch them quite as much with all the action within the top 10. Paulo Bream and Edward Doherty fighting with Jeff Jacobson. Too wide through turn 1 can be a little bit sketchy, but those two managed to come out the other side. Bream now promoted up to 13th with the other drivers pitting ahead of them. coming out behind. Now they come through 3, 4, and 5. A short little technical spurt before it's back onto the throttle around Big Bend and a wheel off into the dirt for Edward Doherty, but it doesn't faze him. Look at the momentum carried, and he's going to manage the inside. So Doherty, unless he blows the braking into the hairpin, looks like he should be able to take this 13th place away.
Using a little bit of side draft there, heading into the braking zone too, to do his best to try to slow down Paolo. And it worked. I mean, he's fully clear of him here now.
Of our pitters thus far, Juracek has come out the highest of them. He's now promoted to 16th place, and he has not been challenged by Elson by any stretch of the imagination. So we continue to watch this battle for 13th. Brame took a look, but couldn't do anything into Cunningham. I've always considered this corner right here, Adam, one of the toughest on this track. Into Tower Bend, and it seems like it's awful tough for Brame, who goes completely off into the dirt on the exit of the corner. It's a tricky little thing with that awkward braking.
It is. It's like you're swinging from one side to another. Like, what's the line going to be? I would say Tower and Sunset, in my opinion, are the two that are most dependent as well on track conditions. Tower can be sneakily as treacherous as Sunset in the right conditions.
There's very little runoff in the grass to the outside, too, to stop you from hitting the wall. As these three stay line astern for the battle for 13th, Doherty's not going to relinquish it for now. Brame, though, is going to duck to the inside with a very late move as all three cars take differing lines through the final corner. And it looks like Jacobsen says he's had enough of this and is going to take a pit stop. I believe Holton has come in as well.
See if Holton's going to fix some of the damage that he got from that lap 1 incident there.
Ooh, Doherty's going to give another go, or excuse me, no, Brame's going to give another go. He got to the inside, coming through turn 1, and he'll have the advantage down into 3, but still he gives it up as he brakes early, allowing Doherty to retain P12.
McAreevy is really fallen off Sadro. Just the last lap and a half, to the point that I don't know if McAreevy is something's wrong or maybe just kind of got out of the zone for a little bit, but he was looking very far back there for a moment.
Maybe he lost the draft and he just doesn't have the pace by himself. We're watching Aguilar, though, our leader in the Spec 2 who holds a podium position. He's going to lose out because here comes David Gaspers. And unless David makes a major mistake, it's unlikely he'll not be able to take this third position. In fact, he might be waiting for just right here through Le Mans and onto the long Ullman Straight, where it would be a lot easier to just slingshot by. A little bit of a defensive move, covering off the middle of the track. Joe Aguilar doesn't have much of an answer, at least on speed down the straight. He could try to outbrake him into Sunset, but he does not. That allows Gaspers to get through onto the podium, only on lap 9.
Yeah, he's still on track to be able to catch those guys before the end of the race. I mean, it's going to be close, but I mean, that was a 28.512 there by David Gaspers. So for comparison, that was a second faster than what Daniel Sadro was able to run.
Murakami has pitted. There you see him on screen in the 01. Now, he was close to Juracek, was he not? I think Juracek coming around Sunset Bend right now, but he is in traffic. In fact, he's in the midst of the battle between Brame and Doherty, who mercifully pulled to the side for him, and Pitt, giving him clear track again. Murakami still in his stall, and Juracek is by, still our highest pitter of the group. Murakami returning out after Elson and Gregorio. In fact, he lost a lot of spots here. Murakami was up on the podium now, and he's already got 3 cars ahead of him who've pitted.
And definitely things going south for him in a hurry.
Down to 16 minutes left to go. We're going to be seeing more and more drivers come in for stops as the window gets towards the end of itself. And am I seeing that Holton is in for a second stop?
Yeah, he sure is. Wonder if he had some sort of
maybe a speeding penalty or something?
Yeah, it had to have been something like that.
Yeah, it's just over 16 seconds. I'm guessing that it was a speeding penalty. Well, that is horrible news for the number 12. He started this race within the top 10. He returns in 30th now. That hurts. The gap from Gaspers to Sadro has gone down to 3.8 seconds. With a lot of drivers having now pitted, I wonder if it's maybe behooves Gaspers to pit now, find himself some clear track, and just
that's exactly what he. Well, at least I thought so for a second. Yep. Here he comes.
Gaspers is in. McAreevy is in, but so is Sadro. Everybody's in. This may be the end of the pit window. All of them looking for their stall. See if anybody manages to miss it. McAreevy has to go through Sadro, but he spots it perfectly. Hits his mark. Gaspers is going. Euro stays out. Ooh, wow, I think Gaspers gained quite a bit on Sadro with that stop.
McAreevy is still there.
Ooh, did McAreevy maybe get an unsafe pit entry here? Let's take a look at the replay. He's following him on board through Sunset Bend. You're going to see the pit entry where the cones are. Oh, yep.
Yeah, that's big. And that puts Gaspers now with nobody between him and Daniel Sadro.
Will effectively promote him to second. McAreevy did get back out, but he returns in 9th. We're still waiting for LeVay and Bureau to pit, so he should gain those 2 positions once that cycles through. Bureau, obviously our leader now. He'll have to relinquish that soon. Sadro's, well, I'm sure he'll go in this time, but Sadro's hoping that he doesn't catch him because Bureau's still out there. Could hold up the 51, and he needs as much time as possible, losing a second to Gaspers in the pit stop. We're going to be down to the final quarter of this race very soon. And from there, it'll be a matter of whether or not Sadro can hold him behind. 5th place, a nice little tussle. Juracek has caught up with Aguilar. Aguilar still our leader in the Spec 2. In fact, the next car down in Spec 2 is Hugh Haycox, and he's in 12th position. So Joe has been dominating the field in the lower class.
Yeah, and Joe wouldn't even be in this fight right now if it wasn't for that slow pit stop. But now he is, so he's going to have to do his best to try to fight off Juracek here. See what he can do with him. But still, though, Aguilar has himself a good, fast ride here today.
Juracek gaining with a great run on the Ullman straight. He thinks about maybe trying to pass, but doesn't have enough of a run up to there. Bureau has pitted in front of them.
So is
and
LeVay.
LeVay has as well. This time onto the front stretch. Juracek still staying within the toe. It's a little bit of a shorter straight here on the front stretch. Coming up to turn 1. We ride on board, looking ahead. Very different lines between the 2 drivers.
anything, I would say that Aguilar got a little loose right there going through turn 1 and 2 with a little bit of that off throttle oversteer, and he had to catch it, but in the process was able to do it without losing too much time, but kind of maybe, oh, he's going to get loose right there, but maybe in Jiricek's view, he's off. He's going to lose it down here in the straightaway.
Yeah, just too much dirt off to the outside. Even if he kept his foot in it, there's just no grip out there. Jiricek now gets onto the podium. And Joe Aguilar, leader in the Spec 2, gets demoted to P4. He's got a decent gap to Gregorio, who is in 5th position. It's 7.5 seconds between them, so I don't think Joe is sweating it too much.
No, I don't either.
Here. Whoa, on screen contact between, was that Stevie Ray and Hugh Haycox? The younger of the Haycoxes is currently farther up the field, but getting a little bit of damage late in the race. Well, maybe not. No, just managed to stay out of him. It was incredibly close between them, though.
Well, guys, Gaspers can now shout at Sadro. Sadro slips up once. Gaspers is there.
1.2 seconds. And they've faced each other before. But Sadro knows the deal here. I think with so few laps left, I kind of get the feeling that maybe he would just try and tuck in behind, ride the draft into the last lap, see if he can get a sneaky pass back front. He's faced up against Gaspers repeatedly in this series, in these cars, probably at this track before even, I would say, of the numerous times that they've raced here in this series. So I don't think he is out of tools in his tool belt quite yet.
Well, you know, the old oval track adage always applies even here. I mean, it's you know, catching him is one thing, passing him is another. I mean, he still has to get around him, and that's not a given at all. So, but he is definitely faster, and he is there. So it's going to be a question of how much Sadro can hold him off, and if he can't hold him off, how he can latch on, like you said.
Corner after corner, the gap continues to come down. It's 0.5 of a second now. And I think we've had a change of position behind them. Dominic Bureau being overtaken by Stevie Ray for P8. He actually might lose another because Hugh Haycox has the inside down into turn 3. And he sneaks through. How about some credit for Michael Shaw behind them, though? Whoa, just as he makes a mistake. Shaw, who, remember, made his error just in about that same spot, fell all the way down to 25th, and now he's in 11th. I think Ian Haycox had another issue. We don't necessarily need a replay of this, but it looks like he lost control of the car into Sunset Bend. Meanwhile, the battle for the lead has gotten all the closer, and there's less than a car length between them. That was a great run out of Tower. But Gaspers just gives a little bit of a nudge up to Sadro. He doesn't make a move to try and pass here through these fast left-handers of Bishop. You can see just how close they are from this onboard and way wide through Le Mans for Daniel Sadro. Puts it out on a silver platter, and Gaspers should have this one up into Sunset. It's a drag race to this corner. Sadro breaks a little bit early, though. Now,
Hey,
go ahead.
Do you guys know who's the hard charger of the race? I'm trying to find it. I'm having a lot of trouble with that right now. Whew, man.
Up to the lead. So let's duck down in the field because I think 21st had some action. Emil Orza. What did he have going on here? Oh. Contact with Bream. And this is coming into Collier out of Cunningham. You're going to see the orange and blue car of Orza head a little wide. That's Bream in the 24. Oh, they get caught up in each other. Both continue on, but with some big damage on the front. In fact, are they still in a battle here? Or is just overtaken by Bream with the lack of straight line speed, and that's Bradshaw in front of them. That's also for position in 21st. Oh, and that's too much damage for Orza. He's actually going to have to come in to get repairs, as Bream is going to look to the inside of Bradshaw now, so the damage not hurting him too much. The 24 easily passed Bradshaw, at least in the first half, and Bradshaw pulls the over-under, sneakily gets back through. Up in 8th position, Stevie Ray and Hugh Haycox coming into Cunningham, being watched carefully by Shaw and Bureau. Oh, they're going to go side by side, coming up to Tower out of Collier. Someone's going to have to give way here. Nobody's willing to do so, though. Hugh Haycox on the inside can't carry the speed quite like Stevie Ray can. Not only does he lose out on that battle, but here comes Michael Shaw, looking to see if he can demote him down to 10th.
Up front, Daniel Sadro taking a sneak. I thought we were going to have a pass for the lead there, Joe. I'm sorry. Sadro almost was right alongside David Gaspers.
And I think we've got 3 laps to go this time by. As they come across the line, Sadro still staying with him.
You nailed it, Joe. I mean, he's latched onto that draft and trying to use it. And I'm wondering right now, maybe he's just trying to test the waters, maybe trying to do something here, if he can keep up there for the last lap.
Don't count out Joe Aguilar. We said he lost the podium position, but our Spec 2 leader is still behind Juracek and employing some of the same strategy, waiting for the right time to try and get by. Right on board with Sadro. Old-time rivals in this series at this point. Compared to Gaspers, Sadro is a little bit more new to this series, and he does have a run, and he's looking to the inside. Gaspers doesn't cover him off, though. He lets him have the desired line into the hairpin, and almost gets squeezed off on the exit of it, as the inside line not going to give you the best traction, so now it's a drag race at him up to Cunningham.
Where I think Sadra right now needs to be careful is getting into any kind of drag race down Ullman. You want to be in his draft and pulling out the last minute down Sunset. I really think he's just testing the waters right here. I really don't expect him. He's thinking that he's going to be able to make a race-winning move at this point. He's just putting pressure.
And they don't have to worry about all that side-by-side racing costing them much because, well, it's nearly 13 seconds back to Juracek, who is more concerned with Aguilar behind them. Here they come up towards Le Mans soon. Let's see if he pulls the same move at him. I'm curious to see if he'll actually pull aside and then lifts early just to kind of see what his draft can do, or if he'll continue to stay behind.
It'll be interesting. I mean, he's got a really good run here, and they are coming to the white flag. You just don't want to leave Gaspers in the spot to where he's going to be able to come back on you. He might actually clear him here in the sunset. We'll see if Gaspers does the over-under. It's kind of what I'd be expecting there. Can't quite cut down low enough. So we'll move Sadro back into the lead, but he's going to have to fight for it here on the last lap.
So Sadro now has control, but is that the control he really wants? Gaspers pulls up behind him. Gaspers also wants the lead. Down into turn 1, side-by-side action into this corner. Sadro giving plenty of leeway and stays wide and comes back in behind him.
Head through 3, 4, and 5 here. as we head toward Big Ben, and eventually the hairpin. This is another good drafting spot, although I don't expect him to maybe pull out and make a move here, although he might still try to. This might be one where if he wants to maybe give him a little nudge or something like that, bump draft a little bit, maybe make him go into that corner a little faster than he wants to. Instead, he's going to get stuck here looking to the outside.
See, I wonder if he learned from last time, because he couldn't get the shot off the corner here on the inside. So potentially making him go shallow or looking for the over-under, it seems. That'll give him a good launch. And he does have better speed. He's pulling up next to him yet again. Up to Cunningham. He's going to be around the outside. Will he be fully ahead? It'll be awful tight. Both of them braking as late as they dare into the 90-degree right-hander. And still David Gaspers denies him from almost a full car behind.
Be interesting to see. This could be setting up a very, very physical back portion of this track.
Well, let's hope they don't actually come together in that last corner. If they go side by side through there, it'll be tough to keep the car steady over the bumps. He stays right underneath them. Will he back up to give himself an even better launch? Look at that. He does slightly into Jean Dembien, giving himself space. I think Sadro is thinking this one through carefully. I think he's setting himself up, both of them looking for the launch out of Le Mans and onto the Ulm straight. He may have just timed this perfectly as he starts to reel him in. They're running out of straightaway, though. He closes in, covering off the inside. David Gasper is going to make him go the long way around. Now they hit the braking zone, slightly ahead into the corner, but on the outside, Sadro is going to have to get really tricky here. Goes way wide on the exit, looking for the over-under. That didn't quite work for Gaspers last time, and it won't work for Sadro this time, because as they come to the line, even though it's going to be close, Gaspers gets the win from 25th on the grid. Behind them, Juracek is ahead, but he's very wide coming out of Sunset. Still, it looks like he keeps it out of the wall, denying Aguilar an overall podium, but a win in Spec 2 for the 221. More action behind them. Hugh Haycox and Stevie Ray in the middle of the top 10 here. And Stevie Ray got a good launch. This is going to be awful tight. Who's going to get it first? As they come to the line, Stevie Ray managing to sneak into 8th. And did something happen to Ryan Walker back there?
He got into Sunset a little hot, hit the bumps, back in went around him, so that would move Zachary LeVay, handed him 12th on that.
Disappointment in the final corner of the final lap for Walker, and he loses control. Other than that, I'm seeing all of our 24 cars still on the lead lap, but pretty far apart except for 18th. This is Regalado, who we haven't looked at a lot today, and Holton, who we have seen and took an extra pit stop. That extra stop, unfortunately, means he will settle for 19th. Woolbolt just going to come home behind Bream. And that's the last of our drivers close to one another. Short, Wilson, and Orza will round out our field of drivers on the lead lap. We're going to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. If you stick around on screen, you'll see all the upcoming races here on GSRC. Welcome back to Sebring International Raceway, round 4 of the weekend. Warriors wound up with a fight for the win, but not between the drivers we expected. David Gaspers started this race in 25th, having not set a very competitive qualifying time, climbed to the front, and then Daniel Sadro tried to tussle with him all the way to the checkered flag. In the end, he couldn't take the victory away from the multi-time champion. Still, it's a second place and good points for Sadro over his main rivals this season. Miroslav Joe Aguilar in Spec 2 taking 4th overall. A great run from him. And Jerry McAreevy, who was on the pole, wound up in 5th after a penalty. David Gregorio in 6th position, with Chris Murakami finishing in 7th. Stevie Ray with an 8th place. A good climb for him. Hugh Haycox in 9th. Dominique Bureau rounds out our top 10.
Yeah, looking at 11th on back here for today, Michael Shaw, Zachary LeVay. We saw him be able to get around Ryan Walker with that spin there through Sunset in the last corner. Bob Kern, Tom Bradwell, Edward Doherty had a few problems out there, able to overcome and finish in the top half of the field. 16th, 17th goes to Jeff Jacobson. Mark Ehan in 18th, Ramon Regalado 19th, and Brett Holton in 20th.
21st today goes to Paolo Bream. We saw him with some late issues, sitting him into the wall. 22nd to Gary Wolbolt, and Brian Short, 23rd. Ian Wilson takes P24, and Emil Orza is the last driver on the lead lap in the 25th spot. Bill Daly a lap down in 26. Bradshaw, he was involved in that early wreck in Sunset. He was 2 laps down in 27. Tom Vandenpoel, also 2 laps down, 28th. Then you get to drivers with some big problems. Ian Haycox, 4 laps down, 29th. I think he may have DNF'd, actually. Elson did as well. We didn't catch what happened to him. 30th, Billy Bob Wright, 31st, and Whitney Strickland, the first one out in 32nd spot. We have Gaspers ready to talk to us, the first driver to get a repeat win this season. And David, you started from the back, and we saw that you came in a little bit late, but was the slow qualifying time intentional, or was that all that you could get there in the last stages?
No, that definitely wasn't intentional. I spun on my first lap, and then on my second lap, I somehow couldn't get my gear in after the hairpin, so I lost 2 seconds there.
That explains the slow lap time, but you picked your way through the field, and then you got up to Sadro. Did you know that he would be able to hold on with the draft? Were you expecting him to be able to stick with you in the final few laps?
Yeah, he has good pace around here. I knew it would be impossible to get him out of a draft, and it was really close with my fuel. At the end, I had 0.4 liters left. At 0.3, the engine starts to stutter. So I had to save a little fuel the last 2 laps. I was lifting coasting then. That's why it was even closer then.
We did notice that you had a slightly shorter stop than Sadro, and that makes it all the more impressive that you managed this win. I know, obviously, you haven't been around for all the races so far this season, but do you think we'll see you at Suzuka? You've done a similar thing there, coming from last to first.
Yeah, I think I should be there, but this time with qualifying.
All right. Well, we hope that that goes a little bit better. Congratulations on the victory today.
Thank you.
David Gaspers, our winner. Second place, Daniel Sadro. Adam has caught up with him to see his feelings after being beat to the line by his longtime rival.
Yeah, Daniel, great race. Can't take nothing away from you on that one. Great battle earlier on with Jerry McAreevy, able to get around him, and then it just felt like the race was on and the clock was ticking. I will admit there was probably people that thought that once Gaspers caught up to you, that he's probably just going to go ahead and start clearing everything, but you hung with them, man. You made a race out of that thing to the end.
Yeah, I remember growing up at the local dirt track. When you won a race, they made you start at the back so that everybody else could have a chance. But even that didn't help keep him behind me today. No, he was obviously he is the champion, and he's champion for a reason. He's very, very good. I was just making far too many mistakes and just kind of let him catch up to me. And once he caught up to me, I knew we'd have a race.
Well, of course, that was only one part of that there. You ended up having the best pit stop out of just about everybody. You did have a good battle there with Macarivi. Tell us about that battle earlier on in the race with Jerry there.
Yeah, I've haven't had as much of an opportunity to race against him. He's often been far too good. We were just hanging in it, and the draft really helped. And then once I made it around him, I just tried my hardest to get out of the draft, and I don't know what happened that allowed me to. But yeah, it was great fun, and it's obviously Jerry's a great guy to race against.
Well, this sets up another battle next week, potentially, because, go to another drafting track. It's Suzuka. But, hey, at least you won't have to deal with the bumps there. What do you think of your chances?
I really like Suzuka. I think it's a great track. I don't think I'm going to be faster than Gaspers there, but I rarely am. I'm looking forward. I'm cautiously optimistic.
All right. Well, hey, Daniel, good run here today, and we'll see you again next week.
All right. Thanks, guys.
That was our second place finisher, Daniel Sadro. Last up, we're talking to 8th place finisher, Stevie Ray, who had lots of adventures, including on the first lap, Steve. Not only did we spot you going 3 wide on the first few corners, but it looks like you had a little bit of an adventure at the end of the lap as well.
Yeah, I kind of overcooked the last turn on the draft and had to just go straight through it, and it gave me a slowdown, so I had to go back quite a bit.
So from there, you had some ground to try and make up, and you find yourself all the way mired down in 14th. But you worked your way back up, and it looked like the action on track, at least all through the field, was pretty good out here today. So would you say the drivers were relatively respectful?
Oh, yeah. I didn't see any problems. This is a really good group, a lot of fun. I don't know if you caught it there. The last several laps, we had a 4-car battle going with Hugh Haycox and Dominic Bureau and Michael Shaw and myself, and that was a lot of fun. And we were side by side for several turns and battled it out.
I hear some drivers talking before the race sometimes about the setups and trading notes. Obviously, as you mentioned, a very friendly group here to being able to share those setups. How much do you alter yours, though? Are you more of a default setup sort of guy and just run it, or do you try and tweak it to your liking?
I take a setup that I've liked for a couple of seasons now, and then I tweak it a little bit and to my liking, and then I'll usually post it for anybody. But it's probably a little different from what most run, just because I drive it a little different, I guess. But I do like kind of tweaking it and seeing what I can.
Well, it certainly worked well for you today. Again, congratulations on a top 10, and look forward to talking to you over in Suzuka.
All right, guys, just once again to thank all the Warriors who come out every week. We've had over 30 pretty much every week this season, so a great tribute to all the Warriors and to you guys. You guys do the best.
Oh, thank you very much, Steve. And we agree. We like seeing these big fields return once again. That was Stevie Ray, our 8th place finisher. And we're going to close up with a big thank you, of course, to Sim Stickers once again. If you do think that you could use some of their products for your sim rig, go to simstickers.co.uk. Also, a thank you goes out to iRacing for putting us on the IESN. Make sure and subscribe so that you don't miss a moment here on the iRacing Esports Network, which includes the Weekend Warriors, week in and week out. Thanks to the companies that provided the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today as well, Adam, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. We're also on social media. Twitter is at GSR Channel, Facebook, Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram, GSRC_Graham. As we mentioned, it'll be off to Japan for the next round. That'll be Sunday, October 13th at 3:45 p.m. Eastern, but we have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. And until next time, race clean, race hard, we'll see you on the track.